Views expressed by Camaplan podcast guests may not reflect those of Camaplan. Camaplan does not guarantee the accuracy of information provided by guests, nor does it endorse or recommend any individual or organization. Camaplan is not an investment advisor, CPA, realtor, or attorney. You are encouraged to conduct your own due diligence before making investment choices. For any tax, legal, accounting, investment, or other questions, please consult a specialist. Hi, I'm Michael Duncan, and welcome back to The Road to Financial Freedom. This podcast is brought to you by Camaplan, a self-directed IRA administrator focused on educating investors on how to grow retirement savings faster through alternative investments. In each episode, we're going to take an in-depth look at the many roads taken to financial freedom and how they differ for each of our guests. Our goal is to help the listeners learn how they can achieve their own financial freedom through the experiences and stories of experts that have done just that. Today's guest is coming to us from the Legacy Group, where he is responsible for investor communications, onboarding, individual and commercial clients, as well as overall support of company initiatives. The dynamic work experience he has gained throughout his career gives him a unique perspective on both sales and operations. I am very excited to welcome Josh Ziegelbaum to the show. Josh, how are you doing today?
Michael, I'm doing great, and it's wonderful to be with you here on the show, and excited to speak with you today.
I'm excited to speak with you too, although I have to say I'm a little jealous. We're in the middle of the winter, and you're in a much warmer place than I am.
I am. I'm in sunny Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but I am from the Northeast originally, not too far from your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I don't blame you for making the switch, especially during this time of year. I don't know if I'll ever leave myself, but it's days like today and weeks like this where it's definitely tempting. I'll say it that way.
It's definitely a wonderful place to live and work. I can tell you that much. So if you're ever in the area, please let me know.
I very much will. And I would love to be in the area because, like I said, much warmer than up here. But that, that we can take that right into why we're here today. And you came to us, like I said, from the Legacy Group, where you do a lot of alternative investing outside the U.S. You've got a large amount of clients that are investing. You mentioned some numbers beforehand, but I'd love to just for you to tell us a little bit about the Legacy Group and I guess kind of what the basis of what you guys do is.
Sure. So the Legacy Group, we're an alternative asset manager. We're a boutique private equity firm focusing on unique investment opportunities in Latin America that produce high social and environmental impact on all stakeholders. So through the Green Coffee Company, Legacy Group portfolio company, we've raised just over $46 million from investors as of the time of this recording, approaching $50 million. And we've done so over 4 formal equity funding rounds. We're currently in the Series C funding round for Green Coffee Company. And this business, GCC, is the Colombia's #1 largest coffee producer. We have over 6,600 acres of land under control, 7.7 million coffee trees. That 46 million has been committed by over 350 investors. And we're really just getting started. So we identify opportunities for investors to make above average financial returns. We provide our management expertise across multiple industries, whether that's financial services, law, and we're providing a unique perspective on how coffee should be produced and how the business should be run in Colombia. We're upending an industry. We're really disrupting the Colombian coffee industry. We employ over 400 people, full-time employees at our farms. And in this season right now, we're in Q4 of the end of the year. We're in the primary harvest. We have almost 1,000 people working with us, if you take into account the seasonal pickers. And we sell wholesale B2B green coffee that we produce on our farms and buy from neighboring farmers. It's a US-based investment offering, so we issue investors equity ownership in the US, and we give them exposure to Latin America, to coffee. We've been very grateful for the growth and success the company's had over the recent years.
Yeah, I mean, so when I first started researching you and what you guys do, I had to say I was surprised. It's no secret on this podcast, I'm very new to this industry in general. And hearing that there's such a large opportunity to invest in something like coffee, which is a top 3 producer of coffee in all of Colombia, like that's crazy to me. it makes sense financially once I thought about it, but just like upon hearing that, hey, you can invest a ton of money in coffee and it's a great investment. It was really interesting to hear. How did you guys, like, how did you get there? You know, it's not a typical route, I would assume.
Yeah, let me take you to the beginning. So this particular company, Green Coffee Company, it was founded by us in 2017. And we built it from the ground up with our own capital and that of our investors. It was birthed as somewhat of an alternative to commercial real estate investments, where investors were looking to get exposure outside of the US into emerging markets. They wanted real asset backed investments, real estate being the land underneath the coffee trees, of course. And at first we were looking to pay cash flow. So it was a cash flow oriented agricultural investment. When we did the seed funding round back in 2018, when we initiated that, and the business has grown. We were really thinking too small in the beginning with our plans. Our initial acquisitions were just 600 acres. We've grown to be more than 10 times that today with over 6,600. And it's grown to be a massive growth investment opportunity. So rather than focusing on short-term cash flow for our investors, we're building an operating enterprise. It's a US-based company that controls all these assets. We're going more vertical, so we want to get out of green and into roasted. So we're building a US-based roasting facility right now. We're targeting 2024 for that. We're also looking to monetize the waste of coffee production, so the coffee byproducts. 80% of the coffee cherry is typically discarded. It's waste. It's the outside of the cherry, and the bean that we know and drink is on the inside. So we're monetizing that through further growth plans. We're building a distillery in Colombia at our facilities in order to make vodka and ethanol from the waste of coffee production. So it's a fully vertically integrated business. It was birthed for our investors based on their needs. And we've just grown tremendously over the last couple of years, and our ambitions are multiplying.
I mean, that's great. Like one of the first things you said was something that stuck out to me, which was, we were thinking too small at the beginning, which I feel like is not something you hear very often, but says a lot about what you guys have accomplished in the short period of time that you guys have been around. Because thinking too small, I feel like in this type of industry, it's not something that happens all that often. And your investors had to have been thrilled, first of all. But more than that, I guess, how quickly did you guys realize that you had thought small? Like, how quickly did you have to basically totally shift your focus to, okay, we're on to something. We need to make this bigger?
I'd say it started to take shape pretty quickly, but really what was pivotal for us was when we did our Series B funding round. And that was in the beginning of 2021 that we initiated that. We really had much more ambitious growth plans, and we mapped out an IPO exit and a path to it for our investors in that our Series B presentation. And we've built upon that in terms of where we expect to be with land holdings, where we expect the roaster to be. We added in the byproduct initiative and with the distillation of ethanol and vodka and such from coffee byproducts. So that's new to Series C. But I'd say that the growth plan started to get really exciting around that Series B when we were mapping out a sale or IPO for our investors in the middle of the decade here.
So before we go a little bit deeper into that, I'm curious, why is alternative investing becoming more popular with investors just in general?
I mean, we've seen broadly over the last couple of years heighten, I guess we could say a year, really, November of 2021 being what we call the market top for public equities and such, but real estate, residential, and commercial started to slow down in 2022. So we've seen a shift in investor sentiment away from high-flying growth names, away from technology, even away from traditional real estate investments. Our investors are typically heavily allocated into US dollars, into the homes that they own, into their investment properties, into stocks and bonds, which are typically domestic here in the US. And with the increased global macroeconomic uncertainty, investors are looking for alternatives outside of typical holdings. So the 60-40 portfolio theory, 60% equity, 40% fixed income, that's somewhat out the window nowadays. And investors are really looking to fill in a portion of that with alternative investments. So early stage private companies, which are capable of large exits, Maybe it's private real estate investments. We've seen a big uptick in apartment building interest, in self-storage, development deals. We consider that alternatives as well. And they're also raised through private placements as we do. So investors are becoming more interested in these asset classes. They're looking for things that are less correlated. They're looking for diversification. And then as it relates to Green Coffee Company, it's US based in terms of the investment, but we're also diversifying into other markets. So you don't want to just diversify across asset classes, but you want to diversify across geographies. So we check that box, and being an alternative investment is one, but being one that is an alternative investment with exposure to another market is even another. So further diversification for our investors. We see Colombia as the go-to market in Latin America. So as it relates to looking into that market and where we see growth and opportunities for arbitrage, we think Colombia is really great. But there's been a big increase in interest in private placements, in alternative investments. And I think the instability we've been seeing is playing into that as well.
So when you first started looking into these alternative investments, and you did mention that people, your investors in particular, were looking for things outside of the US. How did you land on the Green Coffee Company? Like, did it start by looking at farmland, or was farmland kind of like a secondary thing that came along with it? Like, how did that process happen? How did you find what you eventually landed on?
Yeah, the two partners at Legacy Group, they've been on the ground, operating there, living in the country since before we even started the company. So Cole Shepard has a background from a Big Four accounting firm. He was working internationally throughout Asia, throughout Bermuda, advising companies on mergers and acquisitions, and took that expertise, and being on the ground in Colombia, saw that it was a market that was ripe with investment opportunities and for arbitrage like returns for investors. So he started in real estate first, and we became familiar with agriculture. We saw that there was opportunity there, that it was a fragmented market and very antiquated one, and real asset backed potential for cash flows. So we started running our financial models. We started determining the capabilities of it and how it could be profitable for investors. Coffee in Colombia are synonymous with one another. It's a national product there. It's a good industry that employs people. We saw that it was one that we can execute on a thesis that made sense in terms of market disruption and to become an industry leader.
So based on your comments, especially on thinking too small at the beginning, I feel like I might know the answer to this question, but how much of a sell did you have to do toward your investors? Like, was it something that they were a little worried about investing in, or was it kind of an easy sell?
I would say in the seed funding round and the Series A earlier on, obviously we had certain investors that were looking for something like this, but it was a harder sell in the beginning when it's an idea and you have a thesis, you haven't proven that it's accurate. We raised money in the seed round to fund the initial acquisitions.
Yeah.
So we had a strong business case, but in terms of track record of management and doing this particular venture and doing below market acquisitions, adding value, running a coffee company, we had to hire in talent. We brought in a CEO few years back, Boris Woolner, to head up the company, and we didn't have him in the seed funding round, so it was a harder sell in the beginning with the thesis that we had and without the proven years of acquisitions and build out of a company. As we've grown this thing to be where it is today, it's a much easier sell. I mean, I have investors reaching out to me on a regular basis from all different sources, looking to reinvest, looking to make an initial investment. They were either referred to us by people or they've been following us for some time. So we have a lot of interest now in what we're doing and a more organic flow of interested investors. Whereas in the seed round and perhaps the Series A, it was more of an idea that we were looking to execute on. So it was harder to raise the capital. And now we've just seen it come in at a much faster pace. I could tell you from the beginning of 2021, we had just under 10 million committed by investors. And now we're approaching 50 million today, less than 2 years later. So it's becoming easier, if you can call it, and more organic in terms of selling the product to our investors. And they understand what we're doing. They see the track record of management. They see how we've executed on what we say we're going to do. And we have people invest with us with self-directed IRAs, with traditional funds, and all sorts of different structures. But the investor base has grown substantially, and we're very fortunate in that.
I was going to ask, yeah, is self-directed IRA something that is popular with your clients or your investors rather? Or is it still maybe slightly underutilized?
I'd say there's still opportunity for that to grow, but it's a growing segment of our investor pool. We've seen a lot of investors in the Series C round that we're in now, and the recent Series B invest with self-directed IRAs. We use several providers, and I have 3 investors who use Camaplan, and among others that use other providers. And it's a great way to invest in growth-oriented investments with a company. We didn't talk about this, but the projected return profile on a Series C investment in Green Coffee Company is 64% IRR or an 11x net equity multiple. So what we're telling our investors and modeling for them in our financial model is on a $100,000 minimum investment, we're forecasting a 7-figure exit for our investors. Now, if you could do that in a tax-deferred manner or a tax-efficient manner, it makes a lot of sense. And it's set up as a US LLC, taxed as a corporate. So it's think of it as investing in an early stage private company that expects to be sold or more preferably go public through a US public market transaction or IPO. So a lot of investors are opting in for the self-directed IRA route, but I do think it's underutilized. I think that there's opportunity to expand that, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more, especially when you point out the tax implications of that. It sounds like a good option. So we've talked a lot about the Green Coffee Company, what you guys do, how you guys got there. Something that you mentioned a little bit at the beginning that I would love for you to expand upon is the importance of producing a positive environmental and social impact through the Green Coffee Company and other things that you guys do.
Sure. Would love to touch on that. That's one of my go-to topics and one that I'm very passionate about. So we're very much an impact-oriented organization. And everything we do and wherever we deploy capital, we think about how it's going to impact all the stakeholders, whether it's the employees on our farms, those that live nearby, people in the community, people who invest with us. We're always taking things into consideration with an impact lens. From a social environmental impact perspective, we provide fair employment and formal employment, and we pay wages into bank accounts, which is not traditional in Colombian agriculture. People are typically paid cash without benefits. We provide the majority of our employees with health insurance, which does not exist in the industry. We provide the majority of our employees with pensions, which is historically very low in the industry. We get paid time off. If people get hurt, we give them the care that they're needed. It sounds normal, but I could tell you that unfortunately in Colombian coffee or agriculture, it's just not the case. So we're formalizing employment and really lifting up the communities where we operate. We employ a group of single mothers who are heads of household in our greenhouse. We have many who are in leadership positions. We promote really wellness across the board with our employees and those that are involved in the company. From an environmental perspective, we reduce water, we're reducing waste. We're building out a solar project at one of our wet mills. We're looking at different ways in which we could reduce our carbon footprint and really make an impact from an environmental perspective. We use advanced planting technologies where we're reducing plastics and we're eliminating plastic from the process altogether and using biodegradable planting pods for our coffee trees. Really, there's more on this. We have an entire presentation built about impact. So if anyone's interested in this topic in greater detail, would be happy to share our impact strategy presentation.
How did that become a passion of yours?
Personally, doing things right always made sense to me. I have been in financial services for over 10 years now, and I've noticed as I've grown through the years professionally, I've done so by doing right by people. So as my clients thrive and as all of my stakeholders that are involved in what I do thrive, I grow professionally. So I noticed a correlation there in terms of adding value for people and growing professionally, financially, personally. It makes you feel good as well, right? So doing things the right way, you could sleep easier at night, knowing that you run your business in a sustainable manner. But I just noticed, over time, I treat people the right way. I provide them excellent service, whether it's my employees or it's my clients or customers, and they come back for more. They refer me business. They are grateful. They tell people about what we're doing, and the positive reputation grows for the company, right? So I think it's the right thing to do, and ultimately businesses are awarded from that from a financial perspective. You see that lately there's been scrutiny and focus on impact investing, how companies need to take care of their employees, take care of the environment. There's a continued push in that space. So as we look to do an exit, whether it's a sale or an IPO, markets will look at how we do these things. How do we run the company? Is it being done in a sustainable manner? Are we taking care of the employees? Are we taking care of the environment? If the answer is no, I would argue that we would get a lower valuation as well. So besides it being the right thing to do and making you feel good, from a financial perspective, businesses are awarded for doing things in this manner.
Was that so? These changes that are not very typical, changes aren't the right word, but the choices that you made that are very atypical to the Colombian coffee scene, was that something that you guys set out to make changes to from the very beginning, or was it something that you kind of realized as you went on, like, hey, we can do a lot of this stuff better than the industry is currently handling it?
It's a great question, Michael. And from the beginning, we were looking to do things in a sustainable manner and through an impact lens. As the business has been driven forward and new opportunities are uncovered, new business lines, things that we weren't thinking about in the beginning, we're continuously uncovering new ways in which we can conduct our business in a sustainable manner and with an impact focus. So it was in the beginning, we set out to do it. That was the focus. But as the business grows, take something like the planting, that was an idea as we were looking at ways to plant. Well, how do we do this the right way, right? So as we've been driving the business forward and unlocking new verticals, new decisions, there's constantly decisions that we have to make that are impact related. And but it was part of the beginning thoughts of the company and part of our ethos at its core. But all the specific initiatives are being rolled out as we drive the business forward.
I mean, it sounds like you guys are just growing at a very constant rate and a very fast rate as well. Some of the verticals that you've talked about they just sound so interesting, like the ability to make vodka and like using that was from the waste of the coffee, I believe, if I remember correctly. Just being able to reutilize so many different parts of the company is so interesting and something that fascinates me, that I don't think we see a lot of in things like this, and it's fascinating. Have you tried any of the vodka?
No, I have not tried the vodka. I haven't tried all the coffee, of course, and I drink it regularly. The vodka initiative, we've already ordered distillery equipment to our farms and to our facilities, and we've done some research and development with the University of Los Andes in Colombia, and we are going to be rolling that out through year end 2023, I'd expect, in terms of the timeline of that initiative. But it's an exciting one, and I look forward to trying it.
Yeah, I have a feeling that will be a very different source of income, but a very good one as well. I'm looking forward to getting myself a bottle as well. No, I assume I'm allowed to say that. Who knows? Yeah, no, that's fascinating. It's super interesting. So outside of the green coffee company, what else does the Legacy Group invest in? What else do you guys do?
Sure. So we have another portfolio company investment in a tech company called Polygonus. They do 3D art and design, e-learning. They design characters that you'll find in digital Netflix productions in Latin America, characters you'll find in video games in Latin America. So it's a very cool company, one which we made a seed investment in a number of years ago, and it's just grown astonishingly since then. We haven't opened this one up for our investors. It's a Legacy Group investment that we made. But we're invested in Polygonus. It's a Legacy Group portfolio company. We're constantly looking for ideas that we could bring to market. We're very much focused on Green Coffee Company now and making this successful for all of our investors. But we would like to invest in other industries, in leaders that we believe in, or found companies from the ground up that make sense for us. But it would be things in real estate, technology, different sectors, agriculture, and very much a LATAM focus. But right now, the two portfolio companies would be Green Coffee Company and Polygonus.
So that is very different from green coffee, at least from the basis of something you can ingest to very, very technical. How did that happen? Like, how did you guys decide to kind of shift focus like that? Obviously, it's not open to investors yet, but where did that come from?
We were exposed to this company earlier on, and we've seen a lot of early stage companies in Colombia that were seeking funding and that had a thesis and a business plan that they wanted to execute on. And we spoke with the founders. They had a really credible business plan. We believed in it. We thought it made sense, and it was worthy of a bet. This wasn't a company that we founded from the ground up like we did Green Coffee Company. We found a leader and a founder that we believe in, who had a niche and a product that wasn't being offered, and we took a bet on them, and it paid off. So different structure than how we do things at Green Coffee Company. We have a active role, but less active than it would be with Green Coffee Company. But yeah, different sector. But in terms of the management team, I mean, in terms of myself, I'm the director of investor relations. My background is in private banking and wealth management. The two partners at the firm, Cole Shepard, I touched on, background in mergers and acquisitions and corporate advisory, and the other partner, Adam Jason, full career as a corporate attorney in the US, SEC attorney representing investment banks, helping companies go public, doing market transactions. So we have extensive business experience, legal experience, accounting, financial services, and we apply that expertise to different markets. So it's not necessarily agriculture. In terms of hiring out the talent at the coffee company, we have a 25-year veteran of Colombian agriculture as our CEO. So we fill in talent as needed, but we're very much a financial services oriented company. And if there's opportunity for high returns and innovation, we take note of that.
And I don't know if you're allowed to answer this, but are there plans to open up that portfolio to investments from investors in the future?
With Polygonus, it's
Yes.
possible. So they've been self-sustainable to date. They're making money and funding their own company. They haven't done additional funding rounds, but it's quite possible the ambitions could grow and the business plan could get to a point where it makes sense. As of right now, we don't have one plan, but it is quite possible, Mike.
I mean, stuff like that is always growing. And as a consumer of video games myself, I do really appreciate the work that industry does. So, yeah. So I think I've got one final question for you before I let you plug everything and tell us where we can find you. But quite simply, could you tell me what financial freedom means to you?
Sure. I would say the ability to do what I want when I want to do it, not being constricted by money for things. Obviously, everything's restricted to a certain extent, right? If I want to take a private jet every day and go somewhere, like, yes, there's restrictions there. It doesn't make sense. But in terms of being able to meet your daily needs, being able to make your family happy, being able to travel where you want to travel, eat where you want to eat, I'd say like the basic needs plus some that are bonus. Being able to do that and not having to worry, that people talk about financial freedom. They're like, oh, well, I don't want, if I don't work, then I'm free. Well, not necessarily, right? So I would argue that if you do what you love and you make enough money that buys you the freedom that you want to do things that you otherwise couldn't do, that's financial freedom as well. I believe in early retirement, of course, but I think that you could be financially free even working for an organization, whether it be your own or another, with people that you believe in, and providing interesting products and services to your fellow Americans or fellow people. I think there's value in that. And but yeah, having the capital to do what makes me happy, travel where I want, eat what I want, and I'm already there.
I love it. It's a great answer. So Josh, please tell us where we can find you.
For sure. You could find us on our website at legacy-group.co. You could also send me an email. Would love to get in touch with you. investor.relations@legacy-group.co, and we could link to that in the show notes here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Josh, thank you so much for coming on. I had a great time learning about what you guys do and talking some more of the behind the scenes stuff about the Green Coffee Company, especially. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a good time, and I hope to stay in contact.
Thanks, Michael. Absolutely. You have a great day.
So on behalf of me, on behalf of Josh, and on behalf of the Road to Financial Freedom, thank you, listeners, and I will see you next time.